Good morning, beloved. Welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I am Reverend Robin Tanner, one of the co-ministers here at Beacon. So grateful this morning to be joined by some other beloveds in the Beacon community. Glad you're here with us. And in just a moment, they're going to introduce themselves. But before that, I'd invite you, if you're watching right now on YouTube with us, would you introduce yourself in the chat? Let us know your name and where you're watching from in the world. We're so glad you've chosen to be with us for this brief bit of time together. So go ahead, introduce yourself in the chat. And then if you want, just like extra points to shine the light this morning, you can take that YouTube link and maybe share it with a friend who hasn't heard about Beacon yet, and let us magnify our light together. But we do have some folks who are shining their light already this morning. Who's here with me?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Mia Morse. I'm a member here and co-leader of our grief group. Welcome.
Hi, and I'm David Gordon, also a member and on the Board of Trustees here at Beacon.
My name is Misa Iwama, and I'm the Director of Music Ministry.
Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate each of the leadership you bring. This day, we are delving into the topic of grief. In fact, it's our theme for the month of October, which for some of us in the midst of the pandemics that we find ourselves in might be a little bit of a tough topic. But we do promise that though the service is certainly going to be a place of lament and holding grief, also, as many of us who have been on the journey of grief know, there's also a way in which in those times we find that the joy is a little bit sharper, or that there are moments of beauty in the midst of grieving too. So we hope that you'll spend this month with us as we seek across the distances to hold one another, to share our experiences, and to listen to a whole lot of dogs barking at my house. We also acknowledge that tomorrow is Indigenous Peoples Day, and talking about the topic of grief, as one of my mentors, former Chairman Winslow Nosey Sr. of the Apache Stronghold, says, that the teaching is the first chapter of the history of Indigenous peoples across the Americas. And so we honor the stories that came long before that second chapter that we know so well. I have right on my bedside table an Indigenous peoples history of the United States. And this day certainly acknowledge the great grief story of the decimation and harm that has been done across centuries now to Indigenous peoples, as well as the strength and resilience and power of story carried among First Nations people. Mia, I know that you have been really leading some of our grief ministry in our congregation. I'm wondering if you want to share a little bit about your experience and ways in which, if folks are seeking some extra support or connection, how they can do that.
Sure. Just pretty recently, within the past couple of weeks, I've lost one of my best friends, and we've had a lot of family and friends touched by the virus, and another friend lost 3 family members within the last month and a half. But I want to invite you, starting on Wednesday, October 21st, from 7 to 8 p.m. to join us for the refuel sessions. Reverend Emily will be leading, and Terry Polachek and I will be joining. It's 3 sessions specifically on loss and resilience. And we'll start with music, and there'll be programming and just a time to discuss grief and also find joy and hope and learn to dance again in the rain, as Reverend Emily was sharing with us. So we hope we'll see you there. Thank you.
Oh, Mia, I just want to say thank you for doing that great work, and I just want to share for a moment, if I may. I've been thinking about my dad lately. He would have turned 100 this coming week on Thursday.
Oh, wow.
He passed away in the summer of 2010, and we were very comforted at the time to be able to hold a memorial service for him at Beacon. Emily did an amazing job. And, we hadn't been here that long, but still we were embraced by this community, and so many people showed up. It was just wonderful. But, as I think about grief, and I think a lot of people are in the same position when with elderly parents, the grief was really so much more intense before he passed, during his decline. The last couple of years were tough. There was pain, there was lack of mobility, and just a general grumpiness about getting older. And how Beacon really helped us then is that my dad, and this amazed me because I never would have pegged him as the type, but he joined a small group. At the time, we called them covenant groups. And it was just a beautiful group with a lot of beautiful women in it. Jean Crichton and Carolyn Johnson and Gail Moiseau and Grace Millspaw and several others. And they just embraced my dad. He looked forward to those weekly meetings. And in fact, when he couldn't get around so well, they came to him at Spring Meadows that last year. And it was just so wonderful because, I don't know what they talked about because it was a covenant group, but I know in general he held court on his life and then all the high points, but also shared some of the pain of what he was going through. And it meant so much to me, both to know that he was held by them, but also that these were people that I knew and who shared the grief experience with me, who were sad to see his decline, as I was too. So I thank you for letting me share that. It just, on this topic, that's what I think back on.
Yeah, I think our what we call now community groups, but they're still grounded in covenant. What ultimately they can do is really be a place of kind of a holy bearing witness, right, to someone's story and experiences in life.
Yeah, and also as a member of the board, one of the pleasures this year, one of our focus for us this year is helping the congregation go through this journey of writing a congregational covenant. And there's been much gathering and discussion of that so far, and more to come. There's a vote, in fact, coming up in November, right, Robin?
Yeah, November 15th. Thank you, David, for raising that. I heard the word vote. Not
that vote.
Too soon. No.
Yep.
I did also just vote another kind of vote yesterday. So we all hope you do that too. If you're able to vote, please drop those ballots off. But yes, the congregational vote is on November 15th. So David, thank you so much for being here with us. Mia, thank you both for sharing some story and for the ministries that you're leading at Beacon. And Misa, I do have to say, we mentioned voting, and I think I need a little recentering now. So I'm wondering if there's a song that we could begin with that might bring us back to center.
So what I love about what I just heard is, like, Mia was talking about dancing in the rain. And I feel like that's what music helps us do. Hold the space for grief, and also to feel together in a group, as David's father was, with the support of his group, and as David himself was, to go through the process of grieving, is to have people to lean on. So what I love about singing, and what I love about starting a service of singing, is that we can feel like we're doing something together and holding each other up that way. So this song is called Loosen, Loosen, and it's by Allie Halpert, and the words are, loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. It says, the second part is holy breath and holy name. Will you ease this pain? And then we'll start to the top again. So the tune goes like this. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. I'm going to start from the beginning again. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Let go, let go, let go. Let go, let go, let go. So good to be together with you all. And now, the chalice lighting.
Good morning. We are the McGowan family. I'm Shaylin.
I'm Mary.
I'm Rick.
I'm Essa.
This morning we light our home chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, with these words.
We light this chalice for the light of truth and reality,
The warmth of love and compassion,
and the fire of commitment and promise.
We light this symbol of our faith as we gather together.
In a little bit, you're going to see and hear a shadow play. Shadow play is an ancient storytelling technique that originated in East Asia in the countries of Indonesia and Thailand and Malaysia and is used in many countries. It's important to tell stories in many different ways because when we hear stories in different ways, we understand them differently and sometimes even at a deeper level. So those of you who know me well know that I'm not very good with paper and scissors. So when we know we're not very good at something, we can ask for help. And so I did. And it came from my friend Indigo Lewis out in California, who does the same kind of work that Jermaine and I do, working with families and teenagers and their parents. This story made by Indigo is about the mustard seed, which comes to us from the Buddhist religion. After you're done listening to it and after we're finished with the service, try telling your own story using shadow play and see the kind of impact it makes on those who are listening to it. Please enjoy the story of the mustard seed.
Have you ever been sad? I mean, really sad? Today's story starts with a mother who was very sad. She was sad because her child was so sick, and she loved him more than anyone else in all the world. She had bathed him and given him medicine. She did everything she knew to help her son get better. Finally, in desperation, she did one last thing and went to the home of the Buddha. She had heard the Buddha teach many times. His stories and teachings were so wise. The Buddha was the wisest, smartest person she could imagine. And this mother, like many other people, believed that the Buddha could do anything, even make sick people well. She told the Buddha how sick her child was and how she had tried everything she knew to help him get better. She said, "You are the wisest person on earth. I knew that if anyone could help my child, it would be you." But the Buddha saw that the child wasn't sick. He was dead. The Buddha knew that there was nothing he could do for the child, but he thought that perhaps there was something he could do for the mother. He told her that he could make a special medicine for the child, but that to make this medicine, he would need her to find him a rare ingredient. He would need her to bring him a mustard seed, but that wasn't all. This mustard seed had to come from the house in which no one who lived there had ever experienced the loss of a loved one. Indeed, he told her, "Go door to door and bring me a mustard seed from each house, free of sadness, loss, and death." So she went to each house in the town, and at each door she would say, "Dear neighbor, my child is dying, but the Buddha said he could help my child if I could find a mustard seed from a home in which no one has ever been sad or lonely or known death. Would this be your house?" Well, the first neighbor answered, "My dear, have you forgotten? Our dear grandfather died here scarcely more than a year ago." And the second neighbor replied, "I'm sorry, our oldest son died here. It was 10 years ago, but we still miss him." And the third neighbor said, "My husband died here many years ago." And so it went, house after house. When the mother had visited every house in the village, she returned to the Buddha. And the Buddha asked the mother what she had learned. She explained that she learned that there was no house in the entire village in which no one there had not, at some time, been sad or experienced loss or been in pain. She said that she learned that there was nothing the Buddha could do to help her child. But she also learned that she wasn't alone, that as sad as she was, she now knew that others had cried tears of loss before her. I wonder what sorts of sad things those other people had experienced. I wonder if there's been sad things in your life that you've experienced.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Siegel, and I'm a chaplain here at Beacon. Chaplains extend our community, extend our support to the community, even though we're not physically together. Beacon chaplains also help our ministers in reaching out to the congregation via phone and notes, and also in helping them facilitate the pastoral touch points, Thursday at noon, which is virtual, and then the chaplain hour on Sundays. Every Sunday, we invite you to light a candle of joy or sorrow. You may want to light a candle of gratitude, remembrance. You may want to light a candle of hope. You also, in these times in which we're living, might want to light a candle to give you strength and fortitude. You will light the candle in your homes if you so choose, and if you have children in the room with you, please ask them to light the candle as well. You can also lift up any names you'd like to our chat. Today also, we want to light a candle of witness for Amir Johnson. Amir Johnson was from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. His friend reported that Amir's fiancée died in July. Amir died on August 6th, 2020. On that day, Atlantic City police officers received a report that a Black man was wandering on the road outside of Atlantic City. They arrived and found Amir going back and forth between the marshland and the road with a broken glass bottle in his hand. They offered to aid him, give him aid. He refused. He continued to walk. At one point, he turned around and walked towards them, and multiple officers opened fire, and Amir was killed. He was 30 years old. We light a candle today for his life.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am lone. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. When my way grows drear, precious Lord, linger near. When my light is almost gone, hear my cry, hear my call, hold my hand, lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me
Beacon, will you join me for a moment of prayer? To our ancestors, those familial and respected elders, gone before us into stardust, whose wisdom we call upon when we are at our lowest. Sources of courage and compassion, sources of reason and radiance. In these days of so much uncertainty, may we choose honesty over comfort, love over complacency, and truth over convenience. Day in and day out wait weary tasks, burdens we lift again and again, worn paths we wear some more, want and means worn thin, and fatigue. Pain and grief, coldness of heart, bitter and weary days seem to mash our souls a tiny bit more as the weeks pass. Where we know desolation, how do we call forth hope? When our hearts are buried, sunken down, how do we dig out, rise up? What healing touch do we long for? What balm might we take and share? Come what may, O Spirit of life, may we keep a ray of light in our inward path, a living water
in the depths of us, a cleansing breath at our core. May we keep them for ourselves and share them with others. May we call forth from each other vitality and tenacity. Ancestors, help me to grow in my own understanding of community. Help me not to miss the opportunity to love and be loved. Thank you for being with me in my fear and for remembering me and telling me that I'm not alone, because you have gone through this before me and you're still here guiding me. May your love rest in us. May justice live through us. May we have the touch to call others back to life and love, to justice and to peace. And may we sing back their songs and add more alleluias. May we be open to being the force of change our communities need. Be those changes be large or small. Spirit of life and love, of justice and peace, may it be so. May we make it so. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.
In a moment, you'll hear the story of Carlos, one of the thousands of undocumented immigrants that has received support from First Friends of New York and New Jersey. Carlos will share a bit about the impact that Rosa Santana, one of the staff members, program directors at First Friends, has made. All of our offering today will go to support the vital work of First Friends of New York and New Jersey. In particular, their bail bond fund and their emergency relief services, so that when someone is released in the middle of the night, in summer clothes, in the midst of winter, without anywhere to go, First Friends is there to make sure they have the support that they need and the resources, not just for that night, but for the days, the weeks, and the months to come. So I hope that you can give generously. At the end of Carlos's story, a slide will appear, as well as instructions in the chat on how to give to this vital organization this day as a part of the beacon that we are all seeking to be together.
My name is Carlos Sierra, and I was born in Havana, Cuba, and I came to this country through the embassy of Switzerland as a political refugee. And my father's 6 brothers were murdered by the Cuban Communist Party. We fled from Havana to Miami, Florida. The journey has been very hard. When my father and my mother split up, we moved here to New Jersey. My mother was incarcerated when I was 12, and I grew up in an emergency youth crisis center. I ran away from that center for like 6 months, and I was basically homeless. So from like 12 to 14, I was living in the streets. I got incarcerated when I was 20 years old. When my time finished in 2018, I started to notice something was wrong, because people that were getting released were going to the left, and I was directed to go to the right. And they said that I have to go to immigration. And I didn't really understand why, but I kind of had an understanding, because when I was in prison, I was studying the law. I studied the law for like 6 years straight, and I kind of understood that I had some type of immigration violation, but I didn't really know what it was. And when I went in front of the immigration judge, I found out that I never adjusted my status as a political refugee. And because I had a felony conviction, I was inadmissible. So I had to fight in front of the immigration judge. And I didn't have any money. So I basically fought pro se. There came a point when I was detained at the facility where I kind of didn't know what else to do, and I remember that. I remember it clearly. I was at the payphone. They had payphones to call, and I was just crying. I didn't know who else to call. I didn't know what to do, and I saw a sign that said "First Friends," and I dialed the number for First Friends, and I spoke to a woman. Her name is Rosa, and she really changed my life a lot. Rosa really kept me like strong, and I got released through the custody review. And when I was released, Rosa was right there. She was right there as soon as I was released. I wanted to continue my education, so I registered for Bergen County Community College. I didn't have money for books. I needed help for books, and Rosa she gave me a Visa card, and I was able to purchase my books with the Visa. Right now I'm a full-time college student. I just wanted to say thank you for the First Friends, and they really do a good job.
I was 24 years old. I had just graduated seminary and moved from Boston, Massachusetts to Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was a resident in chaplaincy. It was my second on-call night, and I was terribly nervous I was going to miss a page. It had been quiet, which made me even more nervous. And I mentioned to a nurse, "It's kind of quiet," which is the rule of what you never say in a hospital. Sure enough, soon the pages began. First to the cardiac unit, where a man had had a heart attack, and so I prayed with his family as he went into surgery. Then down to the emergency room, up to the neonatal intensive care, over to maternal special care, back to the emergency room. It was there that I got the page to the hospice unit, used a phone from the nurse's station, and called over to hospice. "Look," said the nurse, "her daughter is going to be here at any minute, so if you can't get here right now, we're probably okay." And so I went on to the next call. But then there was another call after that, and another call after that. And soon I was eating a bag of Cheetos from a vending machine, resting my head against a wall as it was almost dawn, and then I remembered. I ran down to the hospice unit and, breathless, found a nurse standing there with charts piled high. "Who are you?" Sorry, I'm the chaplain. Is she still here?" "Who?" "I got a call about a woman who was dying." "Oh, yes, and she's alone, and I am here alone. It's almost shift change. Can you go and sit with her? Her daughter's car broke down. She doesn't know when she's going to get here." I walked into a dimly lit room with a surprisingly young woman who looked to be maybe 50. The poet Naomi Shihab Nye writes in her poem Kindness, "Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment, like salt in a weakened broth." I pulled up a chair and sat down. She muttered a name not mine, but I answered, I'm here. The sun is almost rising, I said. I could see the light coming through her blinds. It's stunning. It looks to be a beautiful day in the desert. Clear blue skies. Nice, easy temperatures. I can open your blinds if you want. We can watch the sunrise. She smiled faintly, and so I got up, opening the blinds, and then sat back down, taking her hand. It's beautiful. There's so much light spilling in now. You can almost feel it coming through the window onto our hands. Time floated by in those early hours. I described the shifting landscape until at last the moment had come. The sun was cresting above the sandias. You can see it now. The sun is coming up. It's brilliant and glowing, and the mountains look like they're lit up. And then she stopped breathing, stopped living. I stayed. The nurse came in, turned off the machines, and an hour later her daughter arrived weeping with regret. I know. I'm so sorry. She wasn't alone. I held her hand. In the wide open ocean, sea otters have been known at night while sleeping to float away to perilous ends. It's why you find sea otters wrapping themselves in sea kelp and tethering themselves to one another like a living raft floating in the open ocean. There is so much grief, beloved. I know. And I feel all over like that 24-year-old chaplain I once was, running from page to page, news alert to news alert, Facebook post to Facebook post, phone call to phone call, with the news of another loss breaking. And I must say, this COVID-19 is not some cosmic blessing. There's no atonement from suffering, no great gift in the immensity of our grief. There's no blessing in scorched earth, fire still burning, loss of home and source. There is no blessing in the death of 212,000 in this country and over 1,060,000 worldwide. There's no blessing in the brutalization of Black and brown beloveds and the decimation of indigenous communities and the grief and the grief and the grief. There is no divine intervention. No, beloved, COVID-19 is not some cosmic blessing. But you are. There is no divine intervention in the face of these pandemics, but you are. Recently, Chrissy Teigen and John Legend shared very publicly the death of their baby ending in a miscarriage, posting a photo of Chrissy with head down, tears flowing. And soon all of us families who had experienced miscarriages or the death of children were outpouring with compassion. In the story we heard this morning in shadow play of the woman named Kisa, the original story tells us that Kisa's son is not sick, but in fact has died. And she is carrying his just shy of 1-year-old body, lifeless, from house to house, begging for someone to bring her son, her beloved, back to life. It is the Buddha, as the story tells, who instructs her to find a house not touched by grief and to take from that house a mustard seed that can bring her son back to life, that can cure her of this pain. Of course, we know she goes from stranger to stranger and cannot find a house without grief, without sorrow, without suffering. But the story goes on. For it is then, we are told, this woman who has carried her son's body for days, at last, with the truth of strangers, with this painful connection of shared suffering, and yet the ease of knowing she's not alone, that she at last can bury her son. The poet Naomi Shihab Nye continues, "Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out in the day to mail letters and purchase bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, 'It is I you have been looking for,' and then goes with you everywhere, like a shadow or a friend." Kindness, beloved. Kindness, look for the kindness. Look for the kindness in you. Look for the kindness when the pain strikes, when the words fail, when the ache of this loneliness seizes your heart, when you feel and are alone. Search with me. For we are here, floating in the ocean, and the sun is rising. If you're still with me, through our varied windows, perhaps we can yet feel the warmth of this sun. The sun is rising, and so are we.
Come thou fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. While the hope of life's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful. May we still thy goodness prove.
Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what
So, Misa, as we go forth into this day and to the weeks ahead, what can we consider and reflect on?
Well, I love the hymn that we just sang. I love the tune and the words, and even though they were written a long time ago, to sing today, lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day, that is to be hopeful. So I hope that we can all help each other to renew our strength, and that together we can be hopeful, and that we can even glimpse joy.
And so may each one of us hold this paradox of joy in the midst of grief and know that we are never alone in our suffering.
Amen.
So may it be.